Good afternoon, ECCT, here with you for another end of the week devotion, continuing on through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. This time we will be looking at chapter 5, verses 17 to 20. So this is Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 to 20. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So this is Jesus speaking and explaining that his coming fulfills the law rather than kind of removes it or takes it away. Now, obviously, I think this is quite a challenging passage for us to read, right? Because on the surface level, it looks like, well, we got to be perfect, right? Jesus coming doesn't take away from us the burden of keeping the law. So the Ten Commandments, everything in the Old Testament, the prophets, it looks like what Jesus is saying is that until heaven and earth pass away, we got to keep doing these things. Even the most obscure kind of commands from the Old Testament are still applicable to us. Now, that's a surface reading, and I don't think that's exactly what's being said here. And so the encouragement and the hope for us is that what Jesus is actually saying here is, I think the best way I can kind of explain it simply is that the coming of Jesus, God dwelling with us, Emmanuel, is not to show that God has lowered his standards and his expectations of justice. It is only to say that Jesus himself, God himself, has come to fulfill those expectations and those standards. So, what I mean by that is, Jesus coming does not in any way remove the significance of the law, right? So when in the Ten Commandments it says, do not murder, do not commit adultery. And if you read kind of the passages after our section, Jesus goes into a few examples, right, of interpreting the law and finding the true spirit of the law. If you look at those passages, right, they establish kind of the baseline, the minimum behavior that is expected of us, right? Don't murder. Do not commit adultery. The reality is those things don't get at the heart of the problem. The problem is our hearts, right? Even when we have anger or lust towards another person, that already is the seed of sin, right? The seed of the problem. And so Jesus comes not to lower the expectations, but to show us kind of the true spirit of where the law is pointing. And so when he says that he has come to fulfill the law and that our righteousness must exceed that of the scribes and the Pharisees, what he's really saying is, follow me and you will understand where the law is truly pointing at. And having faith in me, you will have that righteousness that I have. And that's powerful.